All right, good evening. Welcome to our Paying for College Financial Aid Offer Review webinar. My name is Isaac Ehlers, and I'm a Senior Assistant Director in the Office of Student Financial Aid, and I will be your presenter for this evening. A couple things to keep in mind. Please use the Q&A button to ask any of your financial aid or admission-related questions throughout the presentation. We have staff from both the Office of Student Financial Aid and the Office of Admissions ready to assist to answer your questions. Please allow them time to get to all of your questions. So once you ask your question, they'll be responding to it. You just may need to give them a couple minutes to get to it if we start to get a lot of questions that are coming in. But we will make sure all of our questions do get answered for you throughout this evening. There will also be a recording of this presentation available on the Financial Aid Office YouTube channel. So if you do want to go back and look at the slides or re-listen to an explanation of a topic, please know that that recording will be available shortly after this presentation tonight. First off, we'll start talking just a little bit about financial aid terminology, helping you understand what are some of the common financial aid words that are going to be used throughout our presentation tonight, and then throughout like your financial aid offer and things like that. First thing to really talk about is the cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is the estimate of the cost of being enrolled at Iowa State University for one academic year. So think of it for just your fall and spring semesters. This includes things like your tuition and fees, food and housing, books, course materials, supplies, equipment, transportation, and personal expenses. Again, the cost of attendance is just an estimate of those costs that we expect a student to have during that one academic year, but actual costs may vary based off of the student's lifestyle, major, academic colleges, or academic progress. So again, it is just that estimate of those costs, but your own individual costs will vary depending, again, on those variety of factors. When we're talking about tuition and fees is the cost for courses taken at Iowa State University. So if you take one class, two classes, three classes, whatever the case may be, you will be assessed tuition and fees here at Iowa State. Your tuition and fees includes our mandatory student fees, such as the activity and service fee, health facility fee, health fee, and technology fee. The activity and service fee covers services for students on campus, such as our SciRide, which is our bus system on campus and throughout the Ames community. Provide students access to our recreation centers, activities provided by our Memorial Union, student orgs, concerts, athletic events, all of those different kind of free student services are included in that activity and service fee. The health fee and health facility fee help to support the operations of our Thielen Student Health Center and to help defray the costs of your office visits and things like that at the health center. And then we have our technology fee, which is going to cover things like campus Wi-Fi, student email, our learning management software. All of those technology resources that students will use while at Iowa State are included in that technology fee. When you are looking at your financial aid offer, the tuition and fee amounts that are shown on that offer are going to be estimated based off of full-time enrollment. So in estimating that your student will be taking 12 credit hours or more per semester. So here at Iowa State, if you take 12 credit hours, 15, 18 credits per semester, it is one flat rate for tuition and fees. If your student is taking less than 12 credit hours, then those tuition and fees are prorated based off of the number of credits your student is enrolled in. Next is food and housing. So these are estimates of what it may cost to live on or off campus, depending on your student's housing choice. Actual on-campus costs may differ depending on a student's housing assignment and meal plan choice. So again, our food and housing are just averages of on-campus living here at Iowa State. And so that means that your student's actual housing assignment could be more or less expensive than what's shown on that aid offer, depending on where they're selecting. So whether maybe they're looking at a standard kind of two-person dorm versus a suite style, you may see differences in cost in that aspect, and depending on which meal plan they are choosing. If your student is planning to live off campus, they are not assessed food and housing on the university bill, but we still allow an allowance for food and housing in the cost of attendance in case students are choosing to utilize financial aid resources to help cover those off-campus expenses. So again, if you're living off campus, you'll still get that amount calculated in your cost of attendance, just you won't be charged those expenses by Iowa State. Then we have our books, course materials, supplies, and equipment. So this really covers all of those academic related materials and equipment that you would need for a semester at Iowa State. It includes the cost of our Immediate Access 1 textbook program. This is a digital first flat rate course material program. It costs $259 per semester, and that includes the cost of all of your students' textbooks for that term. All of those textbooks are going to be available directly in Canvas, which is our learning management software for students, in that digital format. The books, course materials, supplies, and equipment on your aid offer also includes an allowance for other materials, supplies, or equipment needed for courses taken at Iowa State. Again, actual costs in that area may vary by term. So depending on if you need supplies for a lab or for a design studio, things like that, that may be where you have some additional supplies and equipment needs. You can learn more about the Immediate Access 1 program online through our bookstore. So if you go to isubookstore.com/Immediate Access 1 students, that will bring you to the information about that Immediate Access 1 program. Students are automatically opted in to the Immediate Access 1 program, and they can choose to opt out anytime through the first day of the semester through the 10th day of the semester, and they would just do that directly through their Canvas learning management system. Next, we have our transportation and personal expenses. So these are just estimates of what it may cost for other daily living expenses. So when it comes to your transportation and personal expenses, those are things that you will not be assessed on a university bill by Iowa State. These are truly those other personal living expenses that you may have or your student may have during the academic year. So some examples I'm thinking of, like, what is your student going to spend on potentially laundry, subscription services, personal vehicle parking, gas, prescriptions, personal hygiene items, other daily costs. So a lot of those really basic costs that your student will have over that 9 months of the academic year that are non-academic related, but still they may need to cover. That is that transportation and personal expenses. So when you are looking at your financial aid offer, depending on your situation, you may or may not want to consider, do you have enough financial aid to cover transportation and personal expenses, depending on how you plan to cover those costs. Next, we'll kind of move into the financial aid award terminologies. So first we have grants. Grants are going to be free money that's awarded based on financial need. So when it comes to grants, it's going to be based off of you filing a FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, and on that FAFSA exhibiting some sort of financial need. Like I said, grants are free money and they do not need to be repaid. And then similar to grants are scholarships. So scholarships are also free money that does not need to be repaid. But scholarships can be awarded based off of that financial need, as again displayed on your FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid, or they could be merit-based or talent-based. So they could be based off of your students' academic excellence, or they could be based off of their community service involvement or their leadership involvement. There's a variety of qualifications to qualify for different scholarships across campus, but there are, like I said, a variety of scholarships that are based on both off of that financial need or that academic merit. Here at Iowa State, we have what's called the One App, which is our scholarship application. And this One App application, as the name implies, is one application that applies a student for the majority of scholarships at Iowa State. This is an annual application that a student will complete every year that they plan to be enrolled at Iowa State. This opens each fall term. So this upcoming fall semester, so in September of 2025, it will open for the 26-27 academic year. So you always kind of apply for these scholarships sort of 1 year in advance. Next, we have our subsidized federal direct student loans. These are going to be a need-based student loan. So again, based off of that free application for federal student aid, you would need to exhibit some sort of financial need to qualify for a subsidized loan. And this loan is going to be interest-free while the student is enrolled at least half-time. So if your student is enrolled in 6 credit hours or more, the subsidized student loan does not accumulate any interest while they're enrolled in, or while they're at school. Repayment on the subsidized loan does begin 6 months after graduation or dropping below half-time enrollment. Once a student who has a subsidized student loan enters repayment, at that point, that loan will start to accumulate interest. But again, no payments are required on that loan while the student is in school. Then we have our unsubsidized student loan. So this is a non-need-based federal student loan. So where in subsidized loan, you had to have financial need on your FAFSA. The unsubsidized loan, you do not. You only need to file a FAFSA to be eligible for an unsubsidized loan. With the unsubsidized loan, it does start to accumulate interest as while your student is enrolled, but no payments are required while your student is in school. So again, while interest does accumulate on that unsubsidized loan while the student is enrolled in school, they are not required to make any payments on that loan. Just like the subsidized loan, the unsubsidized loan also starts repayment 6 months after graduation or dropping below half-time enrollment. Next, we'll move into just talking a little bit about how students can access their financial aid offer and how to read that financial aid offer. Hopefully, most students have received their financial aid offer in the mail. And if they haven't received it yet in the mail, or they lost that copy already, or you just wanted to look at it in a different version, your student can log into their Admissions My Account portal to access their financial aid offer. So once they log into their Admissions My Account, on the left-hand side of the screen, they should have a button that says Financial Aid under their Up Next menu. That will open up then a page that shows when did Iowa State receive their FAFSA if they filed one. And it would show the date that the date it was received at FAFSA, so the date that you filed your FAFSA will be the first date that shows. And then the second date will show the date that Iowa State received your student's FAFSA, and that will update if you make any updates. So if you maybe submitted your FAFSA a couple months ago, you made an update to it, that date would show the most recent update that we've received on that FAFSA for the student. And then right below that receipt of the FAFSA is the financial aid offer. So then your student would be able to go in and click View My Financial Aid Offer, and that would open up their financial aid offer for them. Once they click into their financial aid offer, your screen will look like this. At the very top, it just kind of talks through just a little bit of information for your student, as well as it will link to our financial aid conversation guide, which was the same guide that you would have received in the mail with your physical financial aid offer. It's just the online version of that conversation guide to really help you understand the different types of financial aid you're eligible for and sort of navigating that financial aid process at Iowa State. Right below sort of that introduction area is going to be your 25-26 cost of attendance or estimated cost of attendance. So this is where you will see is what is the estimated cost for tuition for each semester, or fees or food or housing, personal expenses. What has been essentially budgeted for your student? So all of that information will be displayed here, and again, broken out by what is for fall and what is for spring. The cost of attendance that's on the screen is just an example of a cost of attendance. Just be aware that individual students' cost of attendance could vary based off of a variety of factors. So residency and different things like that will change what numbers are displaying on your student's financial aid offer in their Admissions My Account. And then at the very bottom on the screen, you'll see your total estimated cost of attendance. So that's kind of that, again, that total cost for one academic year. And then if you scroll right below that estimated cost of attendance, that will open a student's actual financial aid options for the academic year. So here you'll see any grants your student is receiving, how much in scholarships they're receiving, if they're receiving any work study funding, which we'll talk about later on in this presentation, and then what are they potentially being offered in federal student loan options. So this is really nice on the online version, because you can see is how much are you going to get for fall and how much are you going to get for spring, where in the option or the version you get in the mail, you would just see those year total amounts. So the online version really breaks it down for what is for fall and what is for spring. And then down here at the bottom, you'll see it totaling up how much financial aid are you receiving overall for the 25-26 academic year. Once you've gone out and you've looked at what are sort of your estimated costs, what financial aid are you receiving, then kind of the next part is determining what are your actual out-of-pocket costs for the 25-26 academic year. So what we have developed here at Iowa State is what we call our expense estimator. The expense estimator is an online tool to allow you to estimate a student's university bill prior to the official university bill becoming available. So the university bill becomes available on August 1st for the fall semester and January 1st for the spring semester. So prior really to August 1st, this tool is going to be your best option for getting an idea of what your bill would look like. So you can access this tool online at financialaid.iastate.edu/expense. And then that will open the screen that you're seeing up here on the PowerPoint. And then once you open the screen, you'll just click the estimate button down at the bottom to start estimating what your student's university bill could look like. Once you click that estimate button, the first information it's going to ask you about is kind of just basic student information. So first, it's going to ask your student's residency status. So are they an Iowa resident or a non-Iowa resident? Then it's going to ask how many credit hours is your student planning to take per semester. So if your student is planning to be full-time, they would just select 12 credits. And then that, so again, if they're taking 12, 15, 18, that would all count for the same tuition rate. Next, you'd select your classification status. So is your student a first-year student, sophomore, junior, senior, graduate, vet med student? So this is a tool that's not only helpful your very first year here at Iowa State, but really for all future years as well, since it's always something you can estimate depending on your student's academic year. Next, it'll ask your student's area of study. So that drop-down menu, it will give you a couple different options. If your student's major is listed, you will select their individual major. If their major is not listed, you will just select the standard undergraduate option. And then right below that will be your tech fee. And again, same process. You'll click the drop down. If your student's major is listed, you will select it. If their major is not listed, again, select standard undergraduate. Once you've entered in some of that basic student information, next it'll ask you some information about housing. So it'll ask you to choose your student's housing type. So is your student planning to live in a traditional residence hall, a suite style residence hall, a university apartment, or are they choosing to live off campus? If they select off campus, it will just kind of zero out any housing costs, because again, this tool is going to estimate what your university bill would look like. And if you're living off campus, you wouldn't be billed for off campus housing. At this point, since students don't have their housing assignments yet, I would just recommend maybe your students starting with whatever was their first choice. And then this is, again, a tool you can always come back to and redo later once they do have their official housing determination. So once you select what type of housing your student is living in, next they'll select the building name. So which residence hall are they planning to live in? What is the room type that they're planning to live in? So are they planning to live in a single or a double? What about their room feature? So are they planning to live in a room with AC or without AC? And then last, it'll ask about their meal plan. So asking which meal plan are they planning to go with? And it would give you those options listed in that drop-down menu. Once you have chosen your housing information for your estimate, then it will ask you to put in your financial aid amounts. So this is where you'll need sort of your financial aid offer in hand so that you can enter the amounts that are listed on your aid offer into the tool. Since this is an open tool, it's not going to import your financial aid information directly. You'll need to enter that directly into the system. So you'll enter in any amounts that are shown on that aid offer. You do have the ability to add additional lines with the little plus button in the corner. So if you do have additional scholarships from what it shows you initially, you can always click that plus button to add additional lines of scholarships. You can enter in if you're thinking about utilizing your student loans, you can enter those amounts in. If you don't think you're going to use those student loans, or you want to get an estimate of what your bill would look like without your student loans, you can leave those as 0. Again, you can kind of play around with this tool to really simulate a bunch of different scenarios depending on your student situation. Once you've entered in all of those financial aid awards, then you'll then click that estimate button at the bottom of the screen. And that will open up a screen that looks like this. And what this is going to show you is it's going to show your estimated university expense. So what could you expect to be billed by the university for both the fall semester and the spring semester? And then it's going to have your anticipated financial aid. So how much financial aid are you receiving for the fall term and then the spring term? And then down below, you'll have how much are you still going to owe for the academic term. So if that amount in that bottom line is showing in red, that's going to indicate that that's what you still owe for that term. If it's showing in green, that would indicate that you are receiving more financial aid than what it may cost to attend Iowa State for that semester. And that would be expecting to get a refund of your financial aid. So again, once you have gone to this last screen, the other really nice thing is you can see the breakdown of your tuition and fees and what kind of that itemized cost, and then also your food and housing. You can also use these little edit pencils on the screen to go in and change little things in your financial aid estimate without having to redo the whole tool over. So if maybe you wanted to check what's the cost difference between a suite style or a traditional, you could go back in and click that edit pencil on housing and meals and change it to suite style to estimate what that cost could look like. So again, once you have sort of that idea of how much are you going to owe for fall, how much are you going to owe for spring, that gives you sort of that idea of what do you still need to sort of make a plan to pay for your students' educational costs. And that kind of moves us into talking about how do you plan to cover that remaining expense. So when you do have your fall amount and your spring amount, you know how much do I still owe for the year, then we can kind of move into talking about first our payment options. So there are a couple different payment options that are available. The first option would be paying your balance in full. So that would be just be taking whatever you still owe for that term and making a payment with either your out of your bank account, with a credit or debit card, with a check sent to the university, using an educational savings account or a 529 account. Kind of all of that would be encompassed in just paying that balance. Again, just a reminder, your fall balance would be due August 20th, and your spring balance would be due January 20th. So here at Iowa State, your university bill is always due on the 20th of each month. If you wanted to look at sort of more of a payment plan option, then you could look at our deferred billing plan. The deferred billing plan splits your semester balance into 3 installment payments. So let's say after all of your financial aid has applied for the fall semester, you still maybe owe $3,000. What you could do is divide out that $3,000 into 3 monthly payments, where you would pay $1,000 in August, $1,000 in September, and $1,000 in October to pay that outstanding balance. So it's really just taking whatever you still owe after financial aid and dividing it out over 3 months. To utilize the deferred billing plan, this is something your student would need to opt into once the bill is available. And there is a $20 fee to utilize the deferred billing plan, and that is paid with your second installment. So again, for fall, that'd be a third due in August, a third due in September, and a third due in October. And then again, for spring, it would be a third due in January, a third due in February, and a third due in March. If you have any questions about how do you pay your balance in full from a checking account, using a debit card or credit card, using an educational savings account or a 529 account, or the deferred billing process, you can learn more online at ubill.iastate.edu. All of those processes are going to be handled through what's called the Accounts Receivable Office. And again, all of that information is laid out more in detail online at their website. If maybe the payment options don't work for your situation, another option that you could choose to look at would be a Parent Plus loan. This is a federal loan that is available to parents of dependent undergraduate students to assist with the student's educational related expenses. So like I said, this is going to be a loan that the parents can take out. It is the parent's responsibility to repay this loan. So again, this is a loan where you're taking it out on behalf of your student's education. You can never transfer the loan into your student's name. It is always that parent's responsibility to repay. This loan is credit-based, so you do have to, again, pass a credit check. Again, with you as the parent being the borrower. Since it is a credit-based loan, you do need to apply for the loan in order to see if you qualify for it. The application is done online at studentaid.gov/plus-app. And the 25-26 Plus Loan application will be available in mid-May. So this is not something that you can go out right now, right tonight, and complete your application for the 25-26 school year. You'll need to wait until about mid-May in order to start completing that application online. Again, at the bottom of the screen has our website URL if you want to learn more about the Parent Plus loan, as well as you can go out to studentaid.gov and look at the Plus loan on their website as well to learn more about the kind of details to that loan. Another loan option you could consider would be a private education loan. So this is going to be also a credit-based loan, but as the name implies, it's a private loan. So it is not, the lender is not the federal government. It's not a federal loan. These are loans that are funded by third-party lenders. So think of private banks, credit unions, national lenders, things like that. When it comes to the private education loans, either the parent or the student can be the borrower. So if you are looking for a loan option that your student can utilize and that they are responsible for repaying, a private education loan could be the route you would want to explore. The thing to keep in mind with private education loans is most students will require a creditworthy cosigner in order to qualify for a private education loan. Since again, most students will not have enough credit history built up to qualify for the loan on their own. There are hundreds of different private loan lenders out there. So we do certainly recommend you take some time and do some searching to determine if or to find a lender that meets your individual needs. We do out on our website have a list of lenders that we have kind of done some of the research on to ensure that they're reputable lenders for you to help start your search. So again, you can go visit that website link to learn more about those different lenders. I think we have about 7 different lenders on our website. And on that website, you can kind of compare and contrast repayment plans, interest rates, fixed versus variable, all of those different requirements. We have a tool out on the website that allows you to easily compare and contrast those 7 lenders. But again, like I said, there's hundreds of lenders out there, and we really want you to find the lender that's going to work best for you and your student. We often maybe recommend checking with your local bank or your local credit union to see if they offer any products or maybe what they recommend. And they may be able to help you kind of guide you through the process of finding what do you want to look at when you are looking at private education loan lenders. This is, again, something that with private education loans, we would recommend you probably start looking for these maybe starting in June, and then kind of making that final decision in July so that you have your application completed by mid-July so that everything is ready to go for the upcoming academic year. So again, it's not something you need to go start right now applying for private loans for the next academic year. It's something that we would more expect you to be doing that in June or July, and kind of wrapping things up right before August. Next, we'll talk a little bit about student employment and working here at Iowa State University. So if your student has a work study listed as a are listed on their financial aid offer, this is indicating that they have qualified for the Work Study program, which is a need-based student employment program. So again, your student would need to have financial need based off of that free application for federal student aid to qualify for Work Study. Work Study earnings are paid through university payroll in the form of a biweekly paycheck to students who have worked hours on campus. So Work Study is a little bit different than a lot of other types of financial aid programs, since these funds are not paid directly towards your student's university bill, but are instead paid to your student as a paycheck for the hours that they've worked on campus. When it comes to Work Study, the real big benefit working a Work Study job is that any funds that are earned through their Work Study job are excluded from wages reported on the FAFSA. So again, when your student is working through Work Study and they go to file their FAFSA each year, the earnings that they earn through that Work Study job don't count as income for financial aid purposes. And again, you can learn more about the Work Study program online at our website. If your student does not qualify for Work Study on their financial aid offer, that does not mean that they can't work on campus. Any student who wants to work on campus can, again, regardless of that Work Study on their financial aid offer. Iowa State has nearly 10,000 student employment positions across our campus, and only about 1,500 of those student employees that work during an academic year at Iowa State are Work Study students. So again, the vast majority of our student employees working at Iowa State are non-Work Study students. Students can start to look for jobs online through SciHire, which is our student job board, after registering for fall classes. Most students will register for fall classes during on-site orientation in June. And then shortly after, again, they've registered for classes, they would be able to start looking for jobs through SciHire. If your student is planning to work on campus in the fall, it is very important that they remember to bring their original I-9 documents with them to campus to complete any onboarding requirements for their positions. You can learn more about student employment, the SciHire system, and those I-9 requirements online at studentjobs.iastate.edu. All right, so next we'll talk a little bit about what are some other steps that you may need to consider or take over the next few months. So the first thing is to complete any financial aid action items that are requested from you or your student. Your student will be able to check for their financial aid action items in their Admissions My Account portal. This may not show up for everyone, as it only will show up if there are action items that you or your student need to complete. What you'll see is that screenshot in the bottom corner of the screen where it says financial aid action items, view my action items. Once your student goes in and clicks view my action items, that will take them to the screen that tells them what they still need to complete. And we'll also provide them a way to upload any action items that are required of them. These action items allow us to verify certain elements on your FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid. And so it's very important that you complete the action items as soon as possible, as those action items could affect your financial aid eligibility. So again, it's very important that your student is going out and completing those action items as soon as they can, so that we can ensure your financial aid eligibility gets confirmed and that you know what to expect long before the August bill becomes available. Next, your student will need to consider or need to report any outside scholarships that they've received to us at Iowa State. This is something that they won't do until after they've attended, again, new student orientation in June. So as your student starts to receive any outside scholarships from maybe their high school, a local community organization, things like that, they'll just want to make sure that they are keeping track of all of those scholarship opportunities that they are receiving. And then they will receive more information during new student orientation in June on how to report those scholarships to us at Iowa State, so we can expect those funds to be coming to us and just expedite our processing of those checks once they start to come in August. If your student is planning to borrow any federal student loans, there are additional steps that they will need to complete. Once they've attended new student orientation, we then encourage them to accept, reduce, or decline their federal student loans in Workday. Workday is our student information system on campus here at Iowa State University. And incoming students will start to get access to do that in mid-May. So mid-May, they will have access to that Workday student information system. But we really encourage students to make the decision on whether they're going to utilize their federal student loans or not after they've attended new student orientation in June. During new student orientation in June, students will have the ability to meet one-on-one with a financial aid advisor in the Office of Student Financial Aid to go over their financial aid package and what their situation looks like, and then really help you kind of reinforce whatever decision you're going to make regarding your federal student loans. Once your student has accepted, reduced, or reduced their federal student loans, so that if they are planning to take out those student loans, there are additional steps that they need to complete, and those are done online at studentaid.gov. Once your student will go out to studentaid.gov and sign in using their username and password that they use to set up their FAFSA. And they will complete master promissory note, which is just the agreement that they will repay their federal student loans, and then entrance counseling, which is kind of the overview program to make sure that they understand what they're borrowing. More information about those about entrance counseling and that master promissory note, again, will also be provided to students during new student orientation in June. If you have additional financial aid questions, there are a variety of ways you can contact our office for additional information to help answer your questions. If your student has an active net ID, so they've gone in and set up their Iowa State email account, your student can schedule an appointment with the Office of Student Financial Aid through Navigate Student, which is our online scheduling software here at Iowa State. They would just go online to cyclones.navigate.eab.com/app, and again, sign in with that net ID and password. So again, their Iowa State email account. And that would allow them to set up either an in-person or virtual financial aid advising appointment with an advisor in the financial aid office. You can also email us your questions at financialaid@iastate.edu, or you can give us a call at 515-294-2223 for assistance. Our office is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday during the academic year, and 7:30 to 4 throughout the summer. You can also find additional information about our financial aid programs on our website, which is financialaid.iastate.edu. Next, I'll turn this over to our colleagues from the Office of Admissions for just a couple admission reminders.
Thanks, Isaac. Hi, everybody. My name is Cassidy Conway. I'm an admissions counselor for Iowa State University. We have been answering a lot of your questions, and I think a lot of your questions are going to come into fruition for a lot of you here in the next few months. But if you're somebody, or if you're a student, or your student has received an offer of admission and are looking to know what their next steps are to move forward to get into orientation or learn more about housing, know that the next step is to accept their offer. To accept their offer, they have to go into their Admissions My account and select the Accept My Offer button. It should be their first button on their homepage. And once they accept their offer, they will pay a $425 acceptance fee. By accepting your offer of admission, it gets you access to two things. The first is going to be the contract for university housing. So if your student is looking to live on campus, we do recommend accepting just so that they can get in and get their name into a housing contract and kind of let us know that they're wanting to live on campus to help us with housing assignments and things of that nature. If you do end up changing your mind prior to May 1st, it is important that you let us know so that you can receive that $365 refund. Changing your mind is as simple as going into your admissions account. You'd be able to select your application, and then the student would be able to see a button that says decline my offer if they were to change their mind. So they can do that on their own accord if they would like, or they can always connect with their admissions counselor. Now, I did mention that the $425 fee gets you access to two things. It gets you access to the university housing contract, but the second thing is orientation. So our next slide will talk more about orientation. See, thank you. So New Student Programs is our orientation office, and they host orientation. Orientation is either in person or online, and that is when a student would meet with their academic advisor, register for classes, and get started on all those next steps to becoming a cyclone. During orientation, there are plenty of sessions that students can choose from. Parents can attend as well. Things such as paying the U-bill, learning financial aid options, learning about technology at Iowa State. There's truly so many things that students are going to learn to help them get onboarded to Iowa State during that time. Orientation does typically happen in June for new first-year students. So again, accepting your offer will get you access to that invitation. So if you haven't accepted your offer yet, you would not have been able to learn about orientation or sign up for orientation. That's the additional part of our orientation programming, though, is called Destination Iowa State. This happens the weekend before classes begin, and our first day of classes this year is Monday, August 25th. So the weekend prior is going to be 3 days of fun for students to really learn about how to be a cyclone. They're going to learn about traditions. They're going to learn about how to find their classes. They're paired with an upperclassman, somebody who has been at Iowa State for a year or two and really gets the idea of how to navigate campus and how to be an Iowa State student. So they're paired in small groups and they get kind of escorted around campus to learn about all things that they need to know prior to classes beginning. And so this will probably open up your thoughts to, if my student is supposed to be on campus for this welcome weekend, then when do they move in? I know we had a lot of housing questions in the chat. I will say students are notified of what day their move-in date is once they are assigned housing, but it typically will happen that week prior to orientation or to our Destination Iowa State programming, sorry. So typically that Tuesday and Wednesday prior to Destination Iowa State, which is the weekend before classes, is when students will move in. If you have further questions about how to accept your offer, how orientation works, or just anything related to your next steps becoming a cyclone, you can always reach out to your admissions counselor or reach out to the Office of Admissions, and we would be happy to help. But that's all I have for updates regarding any sort of admissions processes.
Thank you, Cassidy. This is our presentation that we have for you tonight. So again, we are done with our presentation. If you still do have questions, please feel free and enter those into the Q&A section. We will stick around to make sure all of our questions get answered. But otherwise, if you don't have any other questions, thank you so much for attending. And we hope to see your students on campus in the fall.